All right, we'll call the meeting to order. We have a quorum. Let's start with the Pledge of Allegiance. And we have Malpas Corner Elementary is going to sing a couple of songs for us. Let's do that after the pledge.
I think they're gonna lead us in the pledge.
Let's do, okay.
Y'all come on up here.
All right, will y'all lead us in the pledge, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you. All right, you're Miss Cassandra Barnes, correct? All right.
The Star Spangled Banner.
Will you stand for the Star Spangled?
This is a portion of the All County portion of Malpas Corner Elementary, and we're gonna be singing three quotes by Mark Twain, so you get three different numbers, but they're very short.
It's better to keep your mouth closed. People are a fool, but to open it.
Hey, of course, if y'all would come back, we're going to get a picture with you. Come on back up to the front, please. All right, we appreciate all the visitors tonight that came out to see our recognitions, and we got one special visitor here I'd like to recognize, Mr. Kenneth Keith, former school board member and longtime assistant principal, and continues to be a big friend of Pender High School and Pender County schools in general. So, Mr. Keith, we appreciate you being here. All right. Mr. Smith, would you lead us in the invocation, please?
Yes, let us pray. We are thankful for all that you have already done, and we're thankful for the blessings that are to come. Let us be mindful of the duty and the work that we have in this meeting, and give us wisdom to make the right decisions, not only now, but in the days and years to come as well. We ask your blessings upon each student and staff member that's part of Pender County Schools, and we pray that at the end of the day that we'll be better off because of the impact that we've had to the educational system in our school district. Amen.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. All right, do we have a motion to adopt the agenda?
Make a motion to adopt the agenda as presented.
All right, Mr. Springer has made a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Ms. Burns has seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, unanimous. Thank you. All right, Dr. Breedlove.
Board members, we have a special group with us, students that are with us tonight from Pender High School. And if I could have the Pender High School group to come on up at this time to be recognized. And when you're coming up, I would like to, if you would, raise your hand when I call your name. Mallory, Soida, Ciota. All right, Ciota. All right. Zoe Smith, Andon Points, and Carter Brown. Can I also have the instructors come on up? Lieutenant Colonel Themes, Sergeant Major Shaw, and also our Pender High School principal, Mr. Paquette. And Lieutenant Colonel, if you would, can you please tell us a little bit about why your students are being recognized by the board tonight?
Sure. These four individuals all have been in. Thank you. These four individuals have all been in JRTC since the beginning. I have 3 juniors and 1 sophomore. Cadet Ciota, she's going to be the team captain. She's a junior. Cadet Carter Brown is a junior. Cadet Zoe Smith, a junior. And Cadet Andon Points is a sophomore in our program. These 4 students, probably over 2 months, have been competing in the JRTC program, which is called JLab. It is a leadership academic bowl. So out of over 2,000 JRTC programs, the top 32 schools will go down to Washington, D.C. to compete in the final competition. So Pender High School is one of the 32 schools out of 2,000 that had won this. There'll be 32 schools in there from the Army, the Navy will be represented, the Air Force, and the Coast Guard. So we'll be competing with those schools. They'll be down in Washington, D.C. for a week, also getting a tour while competing. Sergeant Major Shaw will be with them. And we will also have a chaperone. But these students will continue to practice all the way up until the time they go. They will be leaving in June for the competition. All right. We would just like you guys to pray for them, give them your support, and hopefully they'll come back with a win for Pender County. Thank you.
First of all, thank you so much for the excellence that you bring to not only Pender High School every day, but to Pender County Schools every day. Thank you for your leadership, and certainly want to wish you all a great success moving forward. And at this time, if I could have board members on around, we'd like to get a picture with you all.
All right, I'm new boss, you guys gotta smile. A little bit harder this time, okay? All right, ready, 1, 2, 3. All right, thank you all very much. Appreciate it.
Good luck.
All right. Public comments. I think we have no one signed up tonight, so we will move on to the information agenda. Item 7.1, which is the comprehensive land use study.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the board. First presentation tonight is the comprehensive land use study presentation. Numerics has recently conducted a comprehensive land use study and will provide the presentation of the findings. The findings will provide us with valuable information that we can use to gain guidance, provide guidance and understanding of the student population and the projected growth for the next 10 years and planning for future facility needs of our district. At this time, I'll introduce Mr. Mike Miller to provide the presentation.
Thanks, Mr. Dr. Breedlove. Mr. Chair, board members, good evening. It's my pleasure to be here. Tonight I'll be presenting highlights from the 2023-24 Land Use Study and Membership Forecast Report. The presentation tonight will be rather brief, about 20 or so slides. We'll focus on a couple large areas, methodology and data, what kind of numbers went into this study, focusing on GIS analysis and residential development. You have a growing county, lots of people moving here, and we'll look at some of that data too. Finally, it culminates in the 2023-24 membership forecast. I will mention at this time that there is also a written report with a lot more detail and a lot more numbers if you're interested in that kind of thing. And we're just going to brush over the highlights this evening. Now, first of all, the methodology that Numerics uses for its land use studies and membership forecasts. I like to think of it as a backwards and forwards looking. We look at historical demographics. How does the student population change as they go from year to year through the schools, matriculate through the schools? But not only that, that's a more traditional demographic approach. We also analyze talking to planners, getting their data about residential developments throughout the county. How many units, how many acres are we looking at for these new developments that are coming? Infill of existing developments, things like that. That's a more of a forward looking of future potentials, growth potentials in the county. So putting those pieces together is what we do to create the membership forecast that you'll see this evening. Starting with the data. One of the inputs that we use in all demographics is the resident live births. Those are the births that have occurred to county residents from 2014. Latest data is 2022. Notice the last 2 years, 21 and 22, that's a jump of 84 over the low there in 2020. So at average, 1.03% per year increase for that period there. I work with a lot of districts in both South and North Carolina, and a lot of them are still feeling the effects of the COVID, the pandemic. And I see there are signs in Pender County of a pretty rapid recovery, let's put it that way. The next piece of data is the historical membership. For this study, we're focusing on month 2 average daily membership from the year 2018-19 through the school year, this current school year, 2023. For Pender County Schools, the ADM, this is a K through 13, there's a few grade 13 children in the school, has increased by an average of 335 students per year, about 3.5% per year. This current year, the month 2 ADM was 10,829, and we're also in the forecast that we'll see later, we'll be including the pre-K and EC students, and as of this spring, there was 298. That's not recorded by DPI, so we get that information directly from the district. You'll notice in 2020, as we see in districts all over the country, that little dip. That dip was a loss of 225 students for that year. Every indication that I'm looking at says that recovery is on track again. So the momentum has grown back. And I'll also mention one thing that's not in the presentation, but it is in the written report, and I think this is a telling piece of information. The 2023 census data, the American Community Survey data, just came out. And for the period from 2020 to 2023, the growth was averaging 2,600 residents per year, 2,600 people per year, general population increase. That's number 2 in the state, just behind Brunswick. And a few more facts about the membership. 110 increase over last year in month 2. A little technical term, but it turns out to be very important, I think, for telling the whole story of Pender County Schools. These forecasts are built off of what are called cohort survival ratios, analyzing how a grade down to the school level goes from kindergarten to first grade. Does it grow? Does it get smaller? First grade to second grade over the course of these 6 years under analysis. And really striking data from this. The overall CSR, cohort survival ratios, for grades 1 through 13 is 1.4. That means, on average, overall, in those 6 years, your grades are growing by 4% every year. There are people moving into the county. And the most striking, I think, piece of evidence in this entire presentation is the average cohort survival ratio for resident live births to grade K, it's at 1.13. That means the average from 2018 to this current year is 13% more than the baby numbers that were born 5 years ago. That's in migration. So people are moving, not only being born in this town or in this county in increasing rates, but they're moving in to this district. Impact from COVID-19 was not as great as experienced in many districts. It was a 2.35% decrease from 2019. And another telling statistic on the bottom, those are the average annual growth rates by grade, K through 12, 13. I lump them together. And you're seeing numbers like 5.34% for growth in grade 2, almost 6% for growth in grade 4, over 5% for growth in grade 5. So all along the board, the signs are looking at a lot of indications of growth. And just, I want to underline this because it was very, very telling for me that it's been doing this for a while. You have these factors that are all pointing in the same direction. General population increases, second highest rate in the state over the last 4 years, 4 years. Resident live births, it looks, if those trends continue in 2021 and 22, it could start a trend that would impact school membership. The ADM is strong. Growth by grade is strong, and especially the high cohort survival ratios. So that's a highlight of all the kind of historical data and the numbers that popped out to me as I was doing this analysis. For the other half of the study, we look at the future potentials, and that requires GIS analysis, geographic information systems. Basically looking at a map, obtaining data from county, municipal planners, school boundaries, where the school locations are, and student data. Putting all that together, identifying and classifying residential developments. That's what generates students. What type are they? Are they single family? There's a lot of multifamilies happening, smaller kind of dwellings that are popping up. Quantifying the student impact from those that are already existing, and using that information to estimate student impact from developments that are coming in the future. And at this point, I'd like to thank all the stakeholders that were involved in this that gladly gave their time to me and their data, from county planning, GIS department especially, Burgaw, Surf City, Topsail Beach. All these people contributed data to this study. This picture is a snapshot of developments of different names. These are, I think, pretty much all single family, maybe some multifamilies floating around there too. But what we do is try to identify the names of the developments so we can see, attach that later on if we need to. Over 600 developments of various types are being tracked at the moment. You have multiple phases and sections in there, and there's some commercial developments that we're looking at. Non-residential identifiers are good too. You want to make sure that students are not popping up on non-residential developments. Mostly from single-family subdivisions and multifamily developments. There's still a lot of mobile homes and manufactured homes in the county, and we track those separately as well. The big pieces of data from this study are how many district students, where are they located, in which developments, current data 2023-24, what's the residential type, apartments, townhomes, condominiums, mobile homes, mobile home parks, single families, the number of developed parcels or units per development, and the total number. One of the things that was a common thread in the discussions with the planning community was they're seeing a lot of infill. So an existing development that may have had a quarter of its lots undeveloped, non-built on, they're seeing that turn around. They're starting to fill in. So it seems to be a countywide phenomenon. We put all that data together, and we end up with what I call the student generation potential. This is a general number. It's good to have in your pocket to kind of think about the county as a whole. When you're talking about specific developments, there's better, more granular ways of doing this. But for the county as a whole, and looking at single family, the average is 0.4 students per developed address point, so household basically. The data that we have is address points, so we use that as a proxy for household. Or 0.30 students per developed residential acre. In my work, the developed residential acre is a more robust statistics. I tend to rely on that a little more for predictions in the future. And just as an idea of how these numbers range, you can go to adjacent subdivisions and have very different student generation potentials. Across the elementary areas, for example, just using those as analysis blocks, the SGP ranges from 0.13 in some areas to 1, which is very high in other areas. So a lot of variation across the county. Obviously, towards 17, they're a lot higher, as would be expected. Okay, so the culmination of all this work is the 2023-24 membership forecast. I'll go over some of the assumptions that went into the forecast, and you'll be presented with two different forms, two different tables by level and by high school area. The model that's used for Pender County schools is, I call it the cohort feeder model. It's one that's particularly suited to this kind of geography, where you have areas that are very dense and developed, and you have other areas that are very rural and don't have as much development. So it kind of separates those. It's easier to separate those using that model. We're using an assumption of the resident live births projected increase at 2.76 per year. That's in line with some of the general population statistics we've seen. And we're also looking at those development, existing and anticipated development trends that we got from the planners. So the graphs you see on the screen here, a lot of different types of forecast models are used in demographics. Not all of them capture the kind of future growth potentials that we're seeing in the development data. So the red one on the top is the one we finally settled on for Pender County schools, higher than the more traditional demographic ones. Again, the model is built from historic trends and looking forward to future development potentials. Everything here is a month 2 average daily, so that's our benchmark for month 2. Includes impact from existing infill and anticipated residential developments. And I always stress that this is used for medium to long range planning. Where do new schools need to be to solve overcrowding problems and anticipate future growth? If you're interested in short range, like how many are going to be at which school next year, I think there's tools in district that are better suited to answer that question more precisely. I know you can't see that. So, but all as if this information should be in a board packet. I'll explain what the colors and all the stuff means, but don't expect you to see all the numbers here. This is the 10-year forecast by level, elementary, middle, and high schools. And then there's a special alternative block in the bottom. So it not only looks at 10 years in the future, it also captures the membership data from 2018 all the way through. So you see it starting at 2018 right there in the middle, where it gets bold, that's month 2 of this year, this current year. And then from there on out, it's the forecast. The colors, there's a color ramp on the bottom for a legend. If it's green, you're below 90% of the listed capacity supplied by the district. If it's yellow, you're in between 90 and 100%. Orange is 100 to 110, and red is over 110. So you see a lot of red there. A lot of it. You're already, I'm sure, familiar with some of the crowding that's going on. But that's not the map that really makes you look. That's the one that makes you look. If you look at this by area, I separated these as best I could by high school area: Heidi Trask, Pender High, Topsail High. I'll give you some summary numbers here, and we'll talk about that in a moment too. But the green that you see for Heidi Trask, for example, currently there's an excess capacity of 524 seats over the entire 14 grades. So it's spread out. In Pender, there's an excess of over 700, at least as of month 2. But on Topsail, there's a shortage of close to 1,000. So you can really see where the stuff has happened and where we think it's going to continue to happen.
Can you go back to that slide?
Yes, sir.
I can't hardly see those red numbers.
Yeah, I apologize.
Okay, thank you.
Knowing that you can't see the numbers real well, I do a little summary at the very end here. The average projected or estimated K-13 growth is 460 every year for the next 10 years. It's on average. It goes up, it comes down, but the average is 460. That equates to a growth rate of 3.6% over the next 10 years. In the year 28-29, elementaries can grow from 4840 up to 5457. Middles in that same time period, 5 years, grow from about 2,500 to about 3,300. High schools growing from currently 3,500 to around 4,300 in 5 years. And in 10 years, we're looking at even larger growths. The table really tells you all a lot of information about what the crowding issues are in some of the schools. But basically, in Heidi Trask and Pender High School areas, generally, you're talking about schools under 90% capacity. There is some growth expected in some of these areas on the far end. Some of these developments are speculative. They might happen, they might not. Most of them are approved that are in the study, but we did look at some speculative ones on the far end of the forecast. And as you know, schools in Topsail area are experiencing crowding. Topsail is currently averaging at like 118% utilization, and we'll see utilizations over 50%, in 5 years. Of course, the new school will relieve some crowding. I can't be more precise about how that's going to, I don't know where your attendance boundaries are going to be, but it'll certainly provide some of the relief that you're going to need. I'm afraid it might not be enough if these trends continue. Again, I'll point you to the written report. If you need to get some sleep tonight, I encourage you to read it. You won't last. A lot of detail, including general population estimates in the appendix. It's really surprising at what the general population is doing. So there's a lot of signs that are pointing towards overall growth in the county. And with that, I'll open up to any questions you might have.
One question I have for you in your discovery of growth. I've noticed that there's recently been talk about some new subdivisions, one in particular that'll have a major impact on western Pender County and Burgaw. There's a 600 plus home that's outside of Pender High School, I believe, they would be going to Pender High School. Was that in your
Yes,
research by any chance? And then also the
yes, sir.
subdivision and Rocky Point, I think the commissioners are looking at, there's a big subdivision there, and then there's apartment houses supposed to be put up here in Burgaw. So has all of that, what was the very last that you cut off of data research?
Let's see, I've visited.
If you don't
here-
have an exact number, I mean, that's fine, but just,
I visited here in early February.
Okay.
I talked to him then. I talked to the four.
so it's pretty recent.
Pretty
then, it sounds
recent.
like. Okay.
And those ones that you mentioned, I can recall, as a matter of fact, talking about, especially the 500 one in Burgaw. Burgaw is an interesting story. There's I talked to James Gantz, Gilbert Combs, Jessica Gray from Burgaw. Currently estimating about 1,300 rooftops. They're looking at 12 to 1,300 approved or speculated. Can't say that those are all going to happen, which will double the current inventory. I know there is some constraints on when those are going to happen. Looking at my notes here.
It'll be in the next few years, I would
yeah.
imagine. I guess the question I have then with the growth, you mentioned the east side, if that school that we're projecting to build, if it's going to meet the needs, if it's going to be large enough, I mean, are you looking at also these schools based on all the red on the west side with CF Pope and the elementary Pender High School? Are we going to have to see more additional building of schools over here?
I think that is going to be something that occurs in the later time. You can't really see too much of the growth here, but
Yeah,
it is impacting it the later. It's not the primary concern, I would say, but yes, we did see that. Probably the thing to understand here is in this chart, there's already some excess capacity in the Heidi Trask area and in the Pender High area. So they're growing, but they're not hitting the kind of thresholds that you're seeing in Topsail. But
It's coming.
it's coming. Yeah, it's funny, this year I've had, I think you're the third district that I've talked to where all the arrows point in the same direction. It's really something. So, these are predictions, they are projections. That's what we do, but there's a lot of evidence that is pointing in a positive direction for growth here in Pender County.
Will this be presented on a website, so if people that did not come to the meeting would have easy access to seeing these numbers here and this presentation by any chance?
Yes, sir. We can make that available on our website.
I think that would be helpful if everyone's okay with that. And the other thing is that especially with budget requests coming up, I think this is vital information to be taken with us to the county commissioners, that they need to see the urgent need of what we're having to deal with.
Yes, sir.
I will say that there are some, usually these presentations are public documents, so I like to make sure that the community understands what we did to do this. So there's a list of data sources. And I also, I worked for Pender County back in 2015? Yeah, 2015. So I've been here before. And somebody requested a error analysis, so that's included here, and then some stuff about the business itself. So are there any other questions?
Dr. Breed,
Go ahead.
you sure? Yep. Dr. Breed, I just wanted to confirm the capacity of the new school in Hampstead.
K-8 will be 2,000 capacity.
Right, but as part of that, we intended to move Topsail Middle School students to that school. Is that correct as well?
Topsail Middle School we are building 1,200 seat capacity for middle school, 800 seat capacity for elementary.
Sorry, my question was, are the students that are currently matriculating at Topsail Middle School,
Yes, sir.
are they going to move to the new school?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so, and there's what, 900 students at Topsail Middle?
Roughly.
Okay, so of the 2,000 capacity, we're netting 1,100. Does that sound about right? 1,100
Yes, sir.
additional.
Yes, sir. Additional.
Seats. Did you know any of that?
Not all the details.
Okay, so yeah, we're and I'm going to ask you a question, but
I know where the
you
school
need
is
to be
going
informed.
to be, but I certainly don't know what the.
Yeah, so we're
attendance
building a
is gonna
K-8
involve.
on the
Yes.
the east end. The capacity is going to be 2,000 students. as part of this plan, we're going to move these 900 students from Topsail Middle School to that school. So really, you're netting 1,100 students or 1,100 seats additional capacity. Does that make sense?
School opens in 26?
2026.
So you're going to have a few more, too, moving in.
Right.
So-
Well, and so I crunched the numbers from your, I just added a column to your spreadsheet, and for the K-8 population in 2026, we're over capacity by 1,300 students.
Sounds about right.
So basically, as soon as the school's doors open, we are still going to be over capacity.
Yes, sir.
Right. I just want to make clear to everybody that that's what this study indicates. Thank you. That's all I have.
Sir, I got a question. Can you tell
Yes,
me,
sir.
can you tell me, what sources you use this from other than the town managers that you were discussing, please?
We get, I'll go to this because there's a few of them. Our main source on the student data is DPI. We also look at, in the written report, there's the North Carolina Department of Administration looks at home schools, private schools. There are no charters located within the Pender County at this time. I did not see the kind of growth in home and charter that I have seen in other areas. It's fairly stable. We get our resident live birth from the state. We get capacity information and pre-K and EC information from the district itself. We talk to your transportation folks to get the attendance areas. But the bulk of it is from Pender County Planning, Pender County GIS, and then the town planners from Burgaw, Surf City, Topsail Beach.
Okay, so my next question would be how the information you provided tonight, how did that coincide with not having a comprehensive land use plan, a usable one, or one that isn't outdated?
Right. I like to use those. The ones I have seen, I can't say that everyone is always the same. The comprehensive use plans I've seen are often kind of, they're not as robust in the population part. And in my experience, the kind of boots on the ground data that I get from your student geocode, so we locate where the students live, we know where they are, we know what subdivisions they're in. That helps us provide these kinds of numbers. It's a lot more granular than you would see in a comprehensive land use. I do use them when I have them. I mean, it gives me an idea, especially of changes in things like density.
Right.
I can tell you that the county or the planners that I talked to all indicated that and Pender County is not the only one, that there may be some kind of shifts in what we would call traditional single families to smaller homes, more dense. Does that mean there's going to be a ton more students? I can't tell you that, but
Statistically showing though, you're not gonna build a 600 person or 600 rooftops and not have any kids in it either.
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay.
You
So
betcha. Yeah. I know Topsail had a land use plan that we looked at, and Burgaw had a 2031 that we looked at. So it was some.
it was just concerning how you came up with some of these numbers, and that's why I was asking.
Sure. Thank you.
Okay.
How many of these studies have you done total?
I've been doing it for 20 years. So
A ballpark is fine. I'm not going to hold it against you.
probably 200.
200? Okay. Where? Are they all in North Carolina? Is it nationwide?
No, it's I worked for a little bit in Virginia, just a few districts up there, most in North Carolina.
What percentage of your business is in North Carolina?
Probably 75%. I work with a few in South Carolina currently. I work with Wake. I work with Johnston. I worked with Pender a while ago. A lot of the coastal districts in the past we've done, yeah.
Are you aware of the North Carolina Opportunity Scholarship Program?
Not in depth, no.
Okay. Generally, you're aware that's what most would refer to as a voucher program, provides students the opportunity. Are you aware that it was recently expanded?
No, I'm not, no.
Okay. I was going to ask you if any of your clients, it essentially makes a voucher available to all students regardless of household income,
Yes.
which is a major change in North Carolina.
Yes,
And
sir.
so I just wondered if you heard from any of your clients in this space when having these types of discussions. Have any of them thought about, using that as an opportunity to help solve some of these capacity problems? Or are they at least considering that as part of the scenario?
I think the only.
Or are they considering it as a threat, for example, to the public school system?
I think that's more of what is what I have heard from the districts I've worked as a threat. A lot of the districts that I work with are crowded, and we don't know how that system is going to pan out. When you start entering parent choice to that degree of freedom, it's kind of new territory.
Has that topic, have those dynamics been studied by you or anyone else that you're aware of?
They have not. I've studied them myself for certain districts that add a good data set. Wake is one where they've had a significant number of charter schools, which are analogous, opening over the last since they removed the cap. So we've had a chance to try to understand how that affects, the public school sector of it, and it's I think by county basis, what I can tell you for charter schools is that charter schools tend to fill up their capacities. I mean, they do have an impact on traditional school districts for sure. So, but that's all they can take. So there's a little bit, they're limited in how much students. If it's wide open, I'm not sure I have any answers for that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just wanted to get, looking at the heat map and, us having recognized that as soon as our new school opens, this district's still going to be over capacity. I just wonder if you think, in your professional opinion, that the change in the state's voucher program, for lack of better terms, will affect any of these numbers in your study, or do you feel confident in them regardless of any changes to parent choice?
I feel confident in the overall trends that we're seeing here. If parents' choice is elevated and there's reasons for them to choose something other than PCS, that's going to affect the numbers. I can't tell you the ratio or the impact, though.
Okay.
I wish I could.
Well, I understand you need data to do that, but I just wanted to get your general feedback. Thank you.
Sir, one last thing, if nobody else has anything. What months did you study this during?
I collected data starting in December, I think.
Okay. And ended in January?
No, I ended about a week ago.
Okay. So normally, how long does a study last?
Generally, something at this depth, about 6 months is what I try. I mean, it's just how it flows. Mr. Taylor called me at the right time, and it's like, we can do it here. So we did it.
So it is potential that the numbers could be off? Is that?
I don't know. I think this is probably as, next year you'll tell me. Let's put it that way. But as far as the data goes, no, I think that this is as close to presentation that I've ever collected the data, taking about 2 months to compile it and make sure that the numbers make sense. And literally, that was ongoing till last week.
I'm just going to go ahead and be honest with you. So you're showing one student loss at CF Pope next year,
Yeah.
right? And then we got 150 houses going over here behind White Tractor, and potentially 500 plus houses going over here behind or down 53, right?
Yeah.
But you're still showing one student loss, and to me, those numbers look like you were reaching that 30,000 foot level. And I'm not saying you were. I'm not saying you weren't. But I'm just trying to get it piecemeal together here as far as. Because what if we went by your planning and what you said as far as building future schools, and then we were way off, right? I mean, all of this is speculation. I understand that too.
Yeah.
So that's why I was asking about your sources and that type of thing.
Okay.
If you have something to add to it, it'd be great.
I think the kind of questions you're asking are important. That's the short-term next year stuff I was talking about. There are much better ways of predicting how many kids are going to be there next year. But I think one of the things that is impossible to see from these tables is the cohort size. You got a big fifth grade class moving in or going out, or you got a huge kindergarten class coming in, that can affect outside the envelope of natural variability. It's just, that's how that goes. I mean, it's just big classes, big cohorts, small followed by small, or several big ones in a row can topple things. And the model is set up to track what's going on at CF Hope year by year, grade by grade. So if there's a large discrepancy in the cohort size, yeah, that could certainly happen.
Okay. In your professional opinion, where would you build a school if you were going to build one for the west side, thinking ahead? Because the growth is coming this way, is what you said, right? And I think we all can agree to that. To what size and what kind of school would you go forward with?
I'm not really prepared to answer that. I think the general areas are fairly obvious, but as far as size goes, I mean, I'm hearing a 2,000 seat K-8, and I think a lot of different districts have different philosophies on how big they want to make a school. I mean, after a while, I think a large high school gets, I don't know, I'm not an education expert. The numbers, I think, can tell you what your deficits are going to be, you know, but finding suitable land, making sure that transportation works, that it's accessible, those are all other questions about when you're looking at school locations. I do work with districts to identify that, but it's a very involved process, and I'd hate to speculate on something I don't know.
Okay. Thanks, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, 7.2, cafeteria needs assessment update. Mr. Taylor.
Could I say one thing about Mr. Miller? I know he's still in the room, but I think it's incredibly important that 8 years ago, he did a study for Pender County Schools and is less than 2% off his projected number. I'm not sure if that means anything to anyone else, but that's pretty successful projections using the methodology that he uses to make those. So that was another reason why I felt like Mr. Miller would do a good job for us and give us the updated numbers that I felt like we needed in our conversations in the past. We didn't feel like the 2020 study, for example, even with the 2022 updates, were really giving us the numbers for projections that we needed. And so the next item is the cafeteria equipment needs. We were asked to work with Airmark and our child nutrition contract staff manager to do an assessment of the facilities across the district to ensure or to improve the efficiency of the meal delivery at our schools. In conversation with those parties, we've come up with a list of things that we know we need and are working to bring that to the board for approval next month. Specifically, the tables that allow our smaller students to place their items on it while they pay and things of that nature began to be noticed as an issue regarding the efficiency of the speed of the food delivery. And then the other items that you see need to measure, we're working with vendors to come out and do the measurement in place so that we can then get a quote for those items. Any questions about that?
Mr. Taylor, is there any reason why we can't go ahead and approve the ones, Ms. Nallen, I'm sorry, can we not use some of those funds to go ahead and approve what can be ordered now, the things that don't have to be measured?
We have to, we're in the process of gathering quotes, and because it's over $30,000, sir, we try to get at least 3 quotes. We do believe that we've given the third vendor ample enough time, so that's why it will be next month.
Okay, all right.
But it's the number of bids regarding the North Carolina purchasing guidelines.
Okay.
Is that correct, Ms. Nallen? I didn't mean to.
That is correct.
I saw you trying to make the
Yes.
button red.
Yes, that is correct.
While we're on the cafeteria subject, did you happen to get an email back from DPI about?
I have not received that response yet. I will reach out to her boss next, to try to get that response. Whether cafeteria funds could be used in support of the items that are listed in the bond projects, correct? Like the Burgal, is it Burgal Middle?
Yes, ma'am. Can you tell me what that woman's name is, please?
I emailed Janet Johnson.
Okay. All right, thank you. Thanks, sir.
So these, any other questions?
I've got one. These,
Sure.
so these items, like, there's a couple of things. For example, at Cape Fear Elementary, it looks like, it says replace cold bars that are not working. Does that mean they don't have any that are working, or some do, some
No,
don't?
sir, that means intermittently along the lines, certain things aren't working. And we've made repairs to them, but they need a new line.
I just, these items individually are pretty small amounts.
They
for
are, yes,
the
sir.
most part. Is there any way to go ahead and just purchase the small items and without having to be delayed by different bids and things of that nature?
Well, purchasing guidelines advocate us not separating items purchased from the same vendor in order to subvert the
Okay, so,
purchasing guidelines.
so it's not multiple vendors then?
No, sir, these are one vendor. Central Restaurant has provided the first column for
I
us,
see that, okay.
and Hubert has provided the second column for us.
Okay, yep, I'd missed that, all right. Okay, thank you very much.
Process it as quickly as possible, and if the board would like to have an opportunity to approve it prior to the May board meeting, that's perfectly fine with me too. Like I said, I will work on
I'd rather
it
that
the
than
rest of
have it
this week.
held up, because some of these things are needed.
Very well, sir.
So if y'all need it, just let us know and we'll
Yes, sir.
do something quickly. if we
We'll
need
get
it.
our documentation regarding the third vendor still not responding so that we can go ahead and process it.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. And the last item is the cafeteria renovation at Burgal Middle School. You know, in conversation last time, I was still trying to reach out to the bond. What do you call it? Bond, people who helped us with the bond. I wasn't in this role. What?
Bond counsel.
Council. I'm assuming that's what they called it. Anyways, and what was it called, sir? They hired.
It was a design firm. It was
Consultant.
It was a design consultant who helped with the bond projects.
So I finally got up and spoke with them, and the idea was to completely gut the Burgal Middle School facility and rebuild it. That was the $4 million price tag. Now, we are currently looking at other options, such as just renovating the cafeteria, the kitchen area to make it more conducive, potentially building on and building a new serving line, cooking area and serving line without having to totally isolate that facility from use because they also provide food for our Pender early college students. That's where we are now. So if there's something else, you know, we are expected to begin the Burgal Middle School project next year. But if there's some other direction that we need to take at this time, we do have $4 million allocated for that project from the bond. I just want to make sure we're using our resources in the right direction.
If just by any chance, Mr. Taylor, if you could get the board before anything's done, just a maybe a drawing or some kind
Yes, sir.
of mock-up of what you're anticipating it to look like.
Yes, sir.
So that way maybe we can just see a somewhat visual slide if you're able to do that.
Okay. We are working with a couple of different contractors to get some ideas about options that would even be feasible with planning and talking with the planning and inspections department as well.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Other questions?
Right. Thank you.
Thank y'all.
All right, the consent agenda is items 8.1 through 8.9. Does anyone have any questions on any of them, or would we like to approve this, or?
I make a motion to approve the
above.
consent agenda.
All right, Mr. Smith has made a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Ms. Burns has made a second. All in favor, say aye.
All right.
Unanimous. All right. 9.1.
Yes, sir. Good evening, board members. In your packet, you will see an executive summary for Rocky Point Elementary School who has received PRC 251 funding. To describe this a little bit to you so you understand where it's coming from, Rocky Point was awarded this funding based on Session Law 2023-134 and General Statute 115C-105.34, which states that schools that are over 80% low wealth and also exceed growth are given extra money to be able to continue their efforts. So we worked with Rocky Point administration to come up with a budget, and that is listed out here on within this executive summary. Certified staff members and classified staff members will receive a bonus for their impact on student learning in 22-23, and we'll also be purchasing laptops and docking stations for those individuals within the school, if approved. Any questions on that?
For the bonus, are staff members that were hired since this 22-23 school year still eligible?
They would be the ones that were participating last year.
Okay, very good. So new employees, basically, if you didn't have anything to do with the conduct or performance that resulted in getting this money, you're not eligible for the bonus. Okay, this is all I was trying to confirm. Thank you.
All right. Do we have a motion to approve this?
Make a motion to approve the Rocky Point Elementary School PRC 251 budget request.
Second.
All right. Mr. Smith has made a motion. Mr. Cordero has seconded. All in favor say aye.
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 All right, unanimous. Thank you.
I would like to say one more thing. Out of all the schools in the state, Rocky Point was one of 23 to receive this money. So it's something that's very special, and it was a testament to that team's hard work, for sure. So I just wanted to make sure that was public out there as well.
Thank you. 9.2 is design build contract installment request.
This installment request for payment for the design build initial contract has been received and the staff is requesting approval for payment. This installment covers 69.24% of design development stage. However, the design development documents are due on Friday, so I'm sure they're much further along than what I've placed in the packet. The total is $333,100, which, if approved by you, will be paid by Pender County's general fund, based on the contract that we approved for the design build, design and pre-construction, sorry.
Mr. Taylor, did they happen to give you a CPM schedule?
One more time.
Did they happen to give you a CPM schedule?
We have a schedule for the entire project that shows the design phase, site clearing phase, and all of that.
It's got all the activities from start to finish?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And of course, you know, it's not finite because there's
Right.
still,
Yep.
that will be finite in the very few coming months, though. Once they've finished the construction documents, for sure, we will be well on our way. So we should have that. I would say that we should have the new schedule, which we can depend on sometime around the late May, early June timeframe.
Well, Ben, it's a design build. I would say it's probably going to be on it's going to be a moving target for the whole thing, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
To a certain degree, yes, sir.
So this design build is for the architecture. Is that what you're saying?
Part of it's for the architecture. You can see the payment installment breakdown. And it looks like this may be completely for the architect this time.
It was all under design development.
Yes, sir. It's all under DD.
All right. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
I make a motion to approve the design build contract installment.
All right, Ms. Burns has made a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Mr. Smith has seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you.
If it's okay with the board, I'd like to do the next 5 items all together and talk about them all together. They're all curriculum adoptions. And at the end, if you have questions about all the individual ones, if that's okay.
All right, then we'll
I
vote
think
on them
legally they will
So we
separately.
can vote on them
Vote.
separate, absolutely, yeah.
All right.
Yep. Here we go. All right, so we're gonna talk about the why. And we talked a little bit about this before, but before I go into the why, I just wanna recognize a few people that are here tonight that really were an integral part of getting all of this work done. It was a lot, and I'll start with elementary. Dee Owens, our elementary director, so if you guys could just stand up, or if you wanna come join me, like, this is a lot of work. Dr. Alyssa Lee, secondary director. I have 4 secondary instructional coaches that were a huge integral part of all of this work. Carly McCula for social studies, Angela Sakasitz for ELA, Jamie Manor for math, and Margaret Burke for science. Without the work of these ladies, they did 6-8, but they also supported in K-5 science, along with the other instructional coaches that were for elementary. So it has been a huge undertaking working in K-12 science, along with 6-8 math. I mean, 6-8 social studies, 9-12 ELA, math for 9-12. It's been a huge undertaking. So the why, we kind of talked about already, making sure that we are implementing the new North Carolina standards, that we're improving outcomes for all of our students, really strengthening the core, strengthening the instructional practices that we are using in the classroom, and making sure that those practices are consistent with what we're doing across our core from 9-12. We really focus on the Noster's model for complex change, really talking about aligning everything we do to vision, skills, incentives, resources, and action plan equaling success. So everything we do from here forward, we're looking at resources. Our next is developing an action plan, and they've been working on that for the last couple of months. And then really building into the success of where we want to go, improving outcomes across the district K-12. So we talked about this before. We looked at budget, our assessment data, making sure that standards alignment was important, the usability and customer support, making sure that we had something that was a resource that was responsive, that we could provide professional development on, and that we had technical support as well. All those things were really important. Usability, making sure that teachers and students, the materials were usable across the board. So we did get stakeholder input across the board from teachers, administrators, coaches, district staff, and parents. We held those parent stakeholder viewing days from the 21st to the 3rd. We had an online survey available if anyone couldn't make it out in person. And so we took all that into play in order to make our recommendation. So I'm going to start with K-5 science and work my way out. K-5 science, we looked at Discovery Ed, Smithsonian Science Education, Amplify Science, Activate Learning, and PhD Science. I will say PhD Science is the one that's aligned to Wit and Wisdom curriculum specifically. It is by that company. And we really looked at all of the components that come with that. As a whole, the recommendation coming out of K-5 overwhelmingly was the Smithsonian Science. Smithsonian Science is aligned to North Carolina standards. It really does embed experiential learning into K-5 classrooms. It provides kits which have all of the materials, all the supplies, teacher guides. It broadens teachers' access to content knowledge so they can work with students in building their content knowledge as well as building their own content knowledge in K-5. Because we know our K-5 teachers aren't science specialists, right? So we really want to make sure we build their capacity as well as students. It does have instructional supports. What impressed me a lot about Smithsonian is their professional development from the lifetime that we have the product is free. They provide that through the Science Smithsonian Center, and all of their professional development is free for the lifetime that we have the product. So even after implementation, we can still have professional development for new teachers for as long as we're using the system. 6-8 science, we looked at Kessler Science, Discovery Education. We looked at Smithsonian's version. It's a little bit different than what the K-5 is. Amplify Science and Activate Learning. In some of our science classrooms, they have been piloting Kessler Science, and Kessler Science was the one that the science teachers recommended for their classrooms. It has access to high-quality, differentiated, editable lessons in the classroom, hands-on, very phenomenon-driven, inquiry-based, and then they also provide professional development and implementation support as we go through and use the product as well. That comes along with the license. So for Math 1, we looked at Carnegie Learning, Open Up Resources, Envision, Big Ideas, and Charlotte Mecklenburg Open Source Curriculum. And they were really looking at North Carolina alignment, embedding real-world scenarios into math class, the mathematical practices, and critical thinking, embedding questions, the student materials, assessments, and the instructional supports. They are recommending Envision Integrated Mathematics, the 2024 version. It is aligned to North Carolina standards. It has digital and print engagement opportunities, very rigorous real-world problems embedded into the application of the resource. Ongoing professional support throughout the lifetime of using the product, and teacher-friendly student data monitoring. So we can actually monitor our students in Math 1, where are they from the start all the way through as we go up to the test, right? And really see where students are at in their Math 1. ELA 912, we looked at Common Lit 360, which is being used in our middle school 6-8. HMH Into Literature, Mirrors and Windows, which is a Carnegie Learning product, My Perspectives ELA, Springboard, and Study Sync ELA. Again, same kind of idea, looking at the alignment to North Carolina, what type of reading materials were available, academic language and vocabulary here because it is literature. We were really looking at providing a resource for 9-12, every grade, English 1 through English 4, and making sure that there's writing in that as well, and engagement in reading. Recommendation was HMH Into Literature for 9-12. It's a 3-year adoption which provides print and digital resources, professional development and implementation support, North Carolina specific support, including standards alignment, planning, and pacing guides. And I do have the HMH rep here today in the area, so if we have any questions specific to that. Really, the HMH product really does elevate reading and literature through 9-12. And then we looked at Social Studies 6-8, providing a resource for our 6-8 students. Cengage and National Geographic was one. HMH resource was one. We looked at Gibbs Smith Education and Savas. We were really looking for something that was aligned to North Carolina standards here. The standards did change 2 years ago, and last year they added the Holocaust standards into 6-8 Social Studies. So finding a resource that really fits North Carolina standards is a little difficult. You can't use something that's national. What they did find, and we have been piloting it in one of our schools, is the Gibbs Smith Education is a 6-8 Social Studies resource. It is written specifically for North Carolina and aligned to our North Carolina standards. They do provide planning and pacing resources. It's a 3-year adoption with print and digital resources as well. and it does provide professional development and implementation support as well. And even though this resource was written specifically for North Carolina, it was actually the most economical as well, which we didn't really realize that in the beginning of our search. But it is being used, bless you, in grade 6 currently, so we're testing it out. So we did budget this out in ESSERS 3, and this is the part that is for board approval. For K-5 Science Smithsonian, 992, 723.55. For 6-8 Kessler Science, 50,125. For 912 Envision Math 1 is 110, 299. 912 Into Literature is 222, 189. And the 6-8 Gibbs Smith is 152, 582. All of these resources come with a 3 to longer, depending on how long we use the resource, comes with the professional development, comes with the resource, comes with the printed materials, comes with the digital materials as well. And all of that stuff that we order, we're due to have those materials in-house by the end of June. So our next steps are, for the May board meeting, what you didn't see on there was 912 science equipment. The 912 group really has been working on their pacing and on their resources and their curriculum guides. They need equipment and resources to do lab activities. So they're really digging into what they need in their classroom to be able to meet the new standards. So you'll see that equipment purchase coming up. That it will also be an ESSERS purchase. In the summer of 2024, we've been working on professional development and what that's going to look like for the whole summer. Teacher teams will be developing those pacing guides, finishing up those things and other supporting documents. The state requires us to implement the new standards in the fall of 2024. So we will be rolling this out K-5 or K-12 with all of our science standards. And then 2024 and beyond will be that 3-year adoption of these materials, ongoing professional development, really working on training our staff to train the trainer. Any questions? I know that was a lot.
So in all these agreements, I see that they're mostly 3 years. There's a couple for 1. And they're predominantly going from ESSER funding.
Mm-hmm.
So what is the plan for after that 3-year horizon to ensure that we can continue to fund these new curricula?
So we have curriculum funds and textbook funds that we use, and we have a 7-year curriculum development plan in the district that we developed last year to really meet the needs of when the new standards go out and when resources need to be done. So we have the resources to be able to do that.
Okay, so we're not going to have any issues funding these programs in perpetuity. Even why are we using ESSER funding? Why aren't we using ESSER funding for something else now? I guess I'm confused as to why we're using ESSER now. But if we have money built in the budget, you understand my confusion
We
there?
do. There is a certain amount of ESSER's money that was required to be spent academically for academic improvement.
Okay.
So there is a chunk of money that was outlined specifically for that. Right now, it was just the perfect storm for us to be able to get a lot of curriculum done, especially between 9-12, with all the new standards coming out and all the new resources, which is going to set us up in a good place over the next couple of years to budget out appropriately as we move forward to 5 to 7 years.
Got it. Thank you very much.
Dr. Sawyer, you said you can look at live data on the math.
Say that again?
You could look at live data as far as the students go on the math?
Yes.
Is that what you said?
Mhm.
Now, how does that look for the principals looking at, trying to hold their teachers accountable when you got half a classroom failing?
I don't understand what you mean.
So if your class average is 70, if this teacher A over here has got a class average across the whole day of 75, and teacher B over here has got a class average of 100, what is the principal doing about the ineffectiveness of the teacher for the class average of 75, and how is this going to
So
help that?
So a resource doesn't actually give you that's a grading policy, right? Issue that you're talking about, more of a grading policy. What the resource is going to be able to do is tell us where students are in standards, right? If we had standards-based grading, then we could use standards-based grading to say, yep, this is where they are in standards, this is where they're at. But as we move forward and we work on grading policy and those kind of things, inconsistencies in gradings between a teacher and a teacher become less as you move forward. This product is going to allow us to have more consistency across the board in what's happening in the classroom, the instruction that's happening in the classroom, and you should see less differences. So if a student moves from, Pender High School to Topsail High School because their family moved, they won't have something that's different across both schools. So it's not going to necessarily fix a grading issue, more so as let us know where students are right here, right now in standards, so we can meet their needs. So when they get to that test at the end of the year, they're able to do well.
Well, you would agree that part of the grading is part of the standard, right? Or no? Is it grading not a standard no more?
We do not do standards-based grading. Our grading policy is not set up on standards-based grading.
So are we gonna start
We
doing away with
teach-
grades?
We teach to standards mastery, but our grading policy is not set up on standards-based grading.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
One more question I have is on parent engagement. I noticed that can you describe, you touched on it briefly, but if you could describe the parental engagement process, that'd be helpful.
So we had a survey that we sent out with information for parents that couldn't make it to the meetings.
Who was that sent to?
What was that?
Did every parent receive the survey?
Yep, that
Every
was
parent,
sent
school
to-
district wide?
Sent to all 912.
You need the announcement
Yeah, the announcement.
on the website, like this, so you have to go back and look and see specifically if it went to the emails or not.
It said, I'm a parent and I got one.
There you go.
I'm an elementary school parent and I received the survey.
Yeah. So we sent the survey out, and then we had meetings on the east side, on the west side. We set up the products, elementary, middle school, and high school, and had everything available for people to come pick and choose, and kind of ask questions and review the products. And we had the top 3 available. We didn't have all 5 to 7 available. So we used the teachers, administrators, and coaches to narrow it down to the top 3, and then those top 3 were available for parents to come and look at.
And everything was in person, is that right? Or were they able to, I guess,
They could come in person if they wanted to, and if they couldn't come in person, in the survey, all of the information about all the products, because all the products do have online visibility, all of that was available for parents to be able to see online.
So they didn't have to come in to look at it?
Absolutely not.
How many survey responses did you receive?
How many survey responses? It wasn't many.
Would it be possible to get a summary of those? Not that it will affect the decision tonight necessarily, but I'd just be curious to look at parent
Absolutely.
feedback.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Right. More questions?
Do you want me to stay up for each one?
I make a motion to approve 9.3, the K-5 science resource purchase as presented.
All right, Mr. Smith's made a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Ms. Burns has made a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Unanimous. 9.4.
I make a motion to approve the 6 through 8 science resource purchase as presented.
All right, Mr. Smith's made a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All right, Ms. Burns has made a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. 9.5.
I make a motion to approve the 912 ELA resource purchase.
All right, Ms. Burns has made a motion. Do we have a second?
Second motion.
That was the second. All right, Mr. Smith's made a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, 9.6.
I make a motion to approve the 6 through 8 social studies purchase as presented.
All right, Mr. Smith has made a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Ms. Burns has made a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Make a motion to approve the Math 1 resource purchase.
All right, Mr. Smith's made a motion for 9.7. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Ms. Burns has seconded. All in favor, say aye.
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 All right, unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right, comments from board members. Ms. Burns, I'll start with you.
No comments this month. Thank you.
Okay? Mr. Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On April the 12th, we have a great opportunity, Pender County Schools, to witness something that's been taking place many years, and it'll be at Heidi Trask. It is our Special Olympics spring game. The opening ceremony start at 9:45. I've been several years, and always such a you leave better off than you came. I'll just say that. Just seeing all the children and those working with our Special Olympic teams, just all of them are true competitors. And so I encourage anyone that has the opportunity to support them. That's on April the 12th, Heidi Trask High School Special Olympic Spring Games at 9:45. The second thing that I'd like to say is after seeing the demographic study, this might not be the most popular thing to say, especially in budget crunch time, but I think our desperate need is that we can look and hopefully agree is that we need another high school. That we're already at such a point of overcrowding. No one wants to talk about redistricting. I understand that. But we are in desperate needs of meeting the needs and not waiting. If we build in the next 5 years, we're already behind. So at this point, even with the new school being open, my personal opinion is that we're already behind the ball. And so hopefully those that fill our seats in the future will see there is needs to go ahead and start breaking ground before the land becomes even more expensive to purchase. So I, for one, believe that we need to move in that direction, but that's me speaking for myself. Thank you for everything everyone does.
Mr. Cordero?
No comments, sir.
And Mr. Springer? None? All right, Mr. McPherson? No comments, all right? Dr. Breedlove?
Okay, thank you very much. First of all, I just want to recognize our ISD department and thank them again for the work that they did on surrounding our curriculum purchases. That's a lot of work behind the scenes, and they spent considerable time going through that. So thank you all very much for doing that. Thank you, Mr. Smith. First item I had on there after recognizing our ISD was Special Olympics. So thank you for saying that. Saturday, the April the 13th, we've talked about this before, but we will host the Pender County School Job Fair for all positions. The event will take place at Heidi Trask and will last from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. And this is offering for an array of incentives to prospective employees to be there, and I'll talk a little bit about that. We will have representatives from all 19 Pender County schools. We'll cover the fair and showcase available positions and elaborate on the district's unwavering commitment to educational excellence. Attendees will have an opportunity to engage in meaningful conversations with school administrators and teachers, as well as district officials who will work to provide our prospective employees with insights into the diverse range of roles within our district. Our goal is to recruit exceptional individuals who share our passion for enriching the lives of our students. And this career fair serves as a platform to highlight the rewarding opportunities available in Pender County schools. Prospective applicants are encouraged to come and be prepared with copies of their resumes for potential on-the-spot interviews. And so we will be doing that. We are looking for the best that we can find for Pender County Schools. The Human Resources Department will also be available to provide guidance and assistance throughout the application process if needed. Also, next week is Military Appreciation Week in Pender County Schools. Each day we have sort of special attire day, if you want to, if I can say that, I guess. Purple Up Day, for example, is Monday. It really combines all colors of all military branches into one single color, just to have fun and recognize and support our military. And of course, every day we have something different. That information is on our website and on our school sites as well. On Tuesday, May the 7th, 2024, Pender County School Award Ceremony at Bergall Train Depot. And then on the 8th, we have our underclassmen award ceremony at Pender Early College. On May the 9th, Purple Star Award Ceremony that we will have Assistant Superintendent Mr. Taylor and our Student Services Director, Ms. Radaball, will be accepting on behalf of Pender County Schools the Purple Star Award, in which Pender County has now won over the last several years, and we continue to be a school system that honors and recognizes the military service of our families and the work around supporting those families. And then lastly, on May 21st, Pender County Schools retirement celebration at Bergall Train Depot as well. And just to kind of keep this on the horizon, May the 24th is the last day, day and a half for both traditional school calendar and Pender Lee school calendars. It's the school year is going by very quickly, and a lot of work still needs to be done. Very proud of our teams, and thank you to our Board of Education providing us guidance and support. So at this time, board members, this completes the superintendent's update to the board.
All
Thank
right,
you.
I've got one comment I'm going to add as well. Everyone heard the report tonight about our demographics and needs and various things like that. Lately, I've been to several schools and I've seen some maintenance issues that are caused by basically a lack of funding. I'm not pointing fingers at anyone, but we are at the bottom of the tier when it comes to funding from local money for things like that. So I just want to encourage everyone to try to support us in helping with that problem, whether that be from our board or from county commissioners or, other leaders in the county, without going into a lot of detail. But we've got a lot of needs here, a lot of things that need to also be caught up. In addition to building some more, new space, but we do have a lot of needs there. So at this current budget time, I just hope that all those involved will remember the kind of growth that we've had and some of the challenges that we're facing. I think we have, Mr. Taylor, is it about how many work orders does your department get a day for just general repairs? Is it 35 or 40?
I would say at a minimum, sir. There's
And you do that with how many people, roughly?
21 technicians, sir.
Okay. And that's for basically about 20 different locations, if you include offices, bus garage,
Yes, sir.
things like that. So I just want the public to understand what we're dealing with here. But otherwise, that's all I have. So do we have a motion to go into closed session?
I move that the board enter into closed session, subject to advice from the attorney pursuant to NC General Statute 143-318.11A1 and A6 to prevent the disclosure of confidential personnel information under GS 115C-319 and to consider matters relating to personnel matters. The board will also enter into closed session pursuant to General Statute 143-318A3 to consult with the board's attorney in order to preserve the attorney-client privilege.
All right, Ms. Burns has made a motion. Do we have a second?
Second motion.
Mr. Smith has made a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, unanimous. Thank you. All right, I have a motion that we come out of closed session.
Make a motion to come out of closed session.
All right, Mr. Smith has made a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Ms. Burns has seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, have a motion to approve the Human Resources Report.
Make a motion to approve the human resource report as presented.
All right, Mr. Springer has made the motion. Mr. Cordero has seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
And we have a motion for adjournment.
Make a motion to adjourn.
All right, Ms. Burns has made a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Mr. Cordero has made a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
And unanimous. Thank you.